Retro.
Hi, this is Fred Tatasciore, and you're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. The Force is strong with both of them.
Hello, and welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
Happy Friday. I'm Jay Krebs.
And we are putting another week to rest with a discussion of some recent Star Wars news here on Podcast Stardust. Jay, you want to go ahead and give everyone our social media contacts before we get things started?
Absolutely. We are very easily and conveniently found on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
Okay, the dish is aligned, the signal's boosted to maximum output, the shield is down, we are now broadcasting to the galaxy. So, not a lot in hard news here, but we got various people that have either appeared in Star Wars or might be appearing in Star Wars commenting on their involvement or potential future involvement. Leading off with Matt Smith. He was doing an interview with Extra TV about his role in the upcoming movie Caught Stealing. And he was then asked about the reports that he's going to be playing a villain in Star Wars Starfighter. And he was very coy about all this, Jay.
Yes.
He basically says, I'm in it. Are you sure? And then he referenced how he was originally attached to Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. And he said, someone told me I was in Star Wars before, and I never was. And then when he kind of got pressed on it, he said, I'm not denying anything. I'm asking you if I'm in it. And then he repeated, I was told I was in it before, and it didn't happen. So I'm interpreting this as him being very media savvy about this. He's under an NDA if he's actually signed to this role. So, of course, he can't say what he's doing if he's doing anything. But the simple fact that he didn't just out and out deny all of this, I think says a lot that he does have the role. He knows he has the role, but until Lucasfilm gives him the okay to talk about his involvement, he's just not going to say anything, wisely so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was as coy as a koi in a koi pond. There you go. That's my pun for the night. I'm here all week. But no, but in all seriousness, though, you could tell in the interview that he kind of figured that this question was going to be coming because he didn't act like he was surprised by it necessarily.
Right.
But of course, being the wonderful actor that he is, he was able to maintain decorum and sidestep it very, very well. But I mean, come on, he's got to know it's all over social media. It's all over everywhere. And I'm sure that the interviewer knew that he knew this as well. But, you know, to your point, he's just very good at being able to, keep things on the down low for now. And the fact that he did not deny it outright, as you said, I think definitely speaks volumes as well.
Right. And the original reports are that this movie is going to start filming in November. So we may be on the verge of an official announcement from Lucasfilm anyway. But I guess the other comment I would have is that whoever these sources are that leak these things to, the likes of Variety and Deadspin and the Hollywood Reporter, at Lucasfilm, at Disney, at the studio, just really doesn't do these actors any favors when it comes to this. Because once that news gets out there, they're going to get questions about that. Now, they're also probably being well compensated to put up with those questions.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's just kind of what do you expect them to say in these situations? They're not going to come out and say, no, I'm not doing it, because that's just flat out wrong. But I'm with you. Just kind of the way he played it off. It's like, yeah, he knew the question was coming, but what else could he do in this situation?
Right.
Yeah. Well, similarly, Oscar Isaac was speaking to Variety, and I can't remember what he was promoting, but he was asked about whether he'd be interested in returning to Star Wars. And his response was that he'd be willing to do so under the right conditions. And more specifically, he says yeah, I'd be a Star Wars again if there was something good to do with that. And he told that to Variety, like I said just a second ago, which is pretty cool because, I remember after The Rise of Skywalker was concluded, when he was doing the interview rounds for that, he was asked about whether he'd do Star Wars again, and he really seemed to suggest that he wasn't interested. I think he
Mhm.
was doing episode where he was partnered with Kerry Russell. I can't remember who they were talking to, but when he was asked about that, he said he was cashing in his chips, and she brought up the idea of Disney Plus, and he basically kind of said, no, that's not what he's interested in doing at the time. And of
Mhm.
course, he's done Moon Knight since then on Disney
Right.
Plus. But what are your thoughts on Oscar Isaac possibly coming back to revive his role as Poe Dameron?
Oh, I think it'd be great if there was the role, as he said, that fit.
Yeah,
And I thought it was so funny when he says, "Yeah, maybe if I needed another house, kind of thing." But, I was thinking to myself, what kind of capacity would I like to see him in? And, it's getting to the point now where there have been quite a few years that have passed, and you can tell that, obviously there's a lot of ways to de-age somebody and do the deep fakes and that type of thing. But I feel like the role would have to be something more, akin to something in the future. So maybe in a leadership role, if we ever got something, like Rogue Squadron, that he could be
yeah.
some sort of a leadership mentorship role, teaching a new generation of pilots or, something of that nature. But, I thought about, you could do an origin story, kind of like what we had for Andor, but I don't know, if that would be something that would necessarily work at this point. I think the story would, but I don't know if Oscar Isaac himself would be up for something like that. But what are your thoughts?
Well, if he comes back, I want to see him in a substantial role. I don't just want to see him in a cameo. I mean, if he wants to do a cameo, that's fine, but I'd prefer to see him have a leading role of some sort. The things that come to mind are that, of course, Daisy Ridley is going to play Rey again in the new Jedi Order movie, which is supposed to take place 10 or 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker. Well, at the rate they're going, that's about how long that will be, from the release of the Rise of Skywalker before we see that movie in theaters, which would be the perfect time difference for Oscar Isaac, and that if he wanted to participate in that movie in some capacity. I
Hmm.
agree 100%. I think he would be ideal for Rogue Squadron. I could see him being the captain or general. I guess he's a general with the Resistance at this point, so I can't imagine he'd be anything less than a general then, unless he gets busted down again.
Hmm.
But being a general that organizes Rogue Squadron, that leads fleets, squadrons, or whatever against whatever First Order remnants out there, or whatever new threat is surfaced against the galaxy. I think that would be ideal. I think there are plenty of opportunities to tell good stories with that character. And yeah, I'd be all over seeing him again. I mean, he's such a good actor. He's such a fun actor. He did such a
Oh
good job in that role that I can't think of a reason not to bring him back. And frankly, my big wish is that they get John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Daisy Ridley, all to come back for a Star Wars movie and get that reunion and do it faster than what we saw when they had The Force Awakens come out, follow up essentially Return of the Jedi and the saga, when it was so much later and Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford were so much older. Let's get these actors in their primes to come
right.
back and do stories. Let's not wait so long. Let's tell the next great Star Wars movie story with them, or just don't do it. Go farther into the future and bring us new actors and just tell us brand new stories.
No, absolutely, 100% agree.
Yeah. One of the other quotes I found when I was researching this was back in 2020, he was talking to Deadline, and when asked about whether he'd be willing to do Star Wars again, he said, "I enjoyed the challenge of those films and working with a very large group of incredible artists and actors, prop makers, set designers, and all that was really fun." But then he went on to jokingly say that he would probably return if he needed another house or something. So
Mhm.
it kind of reminds me of a lot of people that worked on Star Wars, where when they were finally done with their roles, they were not eager to come back until they really had an opportunity to take a step away for a number of years. And then the kind of the nostalgia sets in, and it's like, that was a good crew. That was fun. Those movies are something worthwhile doing, so why not go back?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can imagine when you're in the thick of things that it is both overwhelming and amazing at the same time. They're putting their hearts and souls into these roles, and there's so much that goes along with it, with the junkets and all of the hype and just doing all of the even cons like celebration, and it's a lot. So, there's a point to where as much fun as they have, there's a little burnout, which I can totally understand that. So sometimes if you get a little distance between yourself and those characters or those experiences, then you can say, yeah, okay. Like you said, I'm ready to go back now. I'm ready to explore at least some of these possibilities because Star Wars is intense. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming, it would take a toll on anybody in a lot of ways.
I also wonder if this is the conspiracy side of me, and so I'm not investing anything in this, and nobody should either. But he was supposed to be at Star Wars Celebration Japan and
Right.
canceled that appearance not too long before the convention actually happened. And a lot of the speculation at the time was is that he was going to be playing Moon Knight in the upcoming Avengers movies. That's neither been confirmed, denied. Nobody's really officially said anything one way or the other about that. And I'm not even sure too many people have been asked. But I would not have been too surprised if something about his involvement in future Star Wars was brought up then. Or maybe they were going to say he's attached to Starfighter or that he's going to appear in something else. And, the whole notion of never saying never to anything, I mean, don't. Because look, Ewan McGregor, when he was done with Revenge of the Sith, didn't seem too excited about coming back to Star Wars. And here he is all these years later showing up at Celebration and showing up at cons, talking about playing Obi-Wan Kenobi all the time and having just done an Obi-Wan Kenobi series and eager to do more Star Wars
Hmm.
on this. And he's told people a number of times that he thinks it's only a matter of time before there is another Obi-Wan Kenobi project out there. They just got to get the story right and the idea right and the timing right on it.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think right now too, his big thing is isn't he on Broadway right now? I thought that that was where his main focus is, and maybe that's what he was promoting when you found this news article. I can't remember. I don't remember if I saw that in a news article or not, but I know he's got a really extensive Broadway background, so maybe that's what he's just taking some time to do that right now.
Yeah, maybe he is. I just looked it up real quickly and it looks like he was on Broadway in 2023 in The Sign and Sydney Bristing's Window, which I'm not familiar with, but he was there for 2022, 2023. He worked
Mhm.
on that. So, yeah, maybe. I really don't know. I mean, frankly, I'm not particularly great at keeping up with all these actors are doing unless they're doing something I've heard about and then I'm looking forward to. So,
Mhm.
yeah, but that's a potential. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I'm
Yeah.
hopeful that he'll come back. He did a promotional bit for the Galactic Star Cruiser when it was still around, and got a kick out of that. When he was doing the cockpit thing where you fire all the cannons, and he's like, "I still got it, baby!" when he was shooting down
Right.
Imperial ships that were attacking the Star Cruiser. So it doesn't seem like a project that he really is written off out of his life. But again, I respect that idea that it needs to be something worthwhile and not just come back just for the sake of coming back.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, our trilogy of actors that are talking about or not talking about their future Star Wars participation includes Jude Law, who was doing an interview with Screen Rant while promoting the upcoming film Eden. And again, he was asked about whether he would be picking up the reins of Jod Na Nawood again in any future projects. And I don't know exactly how he was asked this question, but it was kind of a leading question. His response to which was, "Well, you kind of put the answer in my mouth." That thinking, I hope you get to see this man again. And he's thinking, Jod Na Nawood, there must be a way out of this so that my story can continue. So they're talking about the end of the Skeleton Crew series when
Mhm.
his plot had been foiled, and then the follow up question was, "Have you heard any updates, or are you confident we'll see him again?" To which Jude responded, "I'm sure you appreciate that there are so many moving parts to that colossus. All I can
Love
say is
that.
we had a really great exception. We had a really exceptional time making it. I was done. It was done with such grace. Boy, I'm butchering this quote. It was done with such grace, spirit, and inclusion and collaboration. I had a ball and at times was allowed to overindulge. I think in my own childhood fantasies of being in the Star Wars universe, but I was very, very pleased with the results and very happy to have had the opportunity to work with that extraordinary group of directors. So that's PR 101. And instead of answering the question that's being asked there, answer the question that you want to be asked in that
Yeah.
situation here. And again, we were just talking about Matt Smith being put on the spot, and being under NDA. They always are under these
Oh,
things.
yeah.
And we heard rumors not too long ago about Jod possibly showing up in other Star Wars projects outside of Skeleton Crew in the future. This suggests to me that there's at least been some discussions, maybe not any agreements or any firm plans put in place, but he's not going to say anything stupid that jeopardizes anything going forward. But what's your take on this?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it's so wonderful to hear him say very enthusiastically that he would love to step back into Jod's boots. He hopes that it's not the last you've seen of this man. I hope you get to see him again. And, it's no secret that John Watts and Christopher Ford really enjoyed working with him as well. So, you think to yourself, well, maybe there is a possibility of something going forward with Jod Na Nawood. And I mean, think about the fact too that the Skeleton Crew, the whole timeline is within the Mandoverse, that particular timeline. So there's nothing saying that he couldn't potentially show up even as a cameo or in at least one episode or more of something with, Mando and Grogu if it gets back onto the small screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, or maybe we could get a surprise cameo from him in the movie itself too. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I am doubtful about there being a follow-up season to Skeleton Crew anytime soon, simply because it seems like all those kids have gotten busy with other projects right now, like ongoing projects, series, and the like. And
Mhm.
so, as much as I like to see them, and we may be waiting on them for a while. But I mean, hey, if Stranger Things can take years to put out another season, then
Right.
why not Skeleton Crew? And at
Exactly.
least with Skeleton Crew, they aren't tied to like school years and the like.
Mhm.
So there's
Mhm.
that. But I am also with you that I don't necessarily have to have him back in Skeleton Crew. I can see him in another show, whether that is a guest starring role. I'd want to see him more than a cameo in there. I mean, nothing against cameos, but let's bring him back for good here. That character has got so much potential with his pirate background, his Jedi background, and everything else he's been doing, that you could see him getting tied up in some sort of a heist movie, or you could see him getting tied up in something that they need someone who's force sensitive to go on a mission. And there's not a whole lot of those around outside of Luke Skywalker at that time. So they find this guy and coerce him into doing something, or make it in his work. That's his best interest to participate in something like that. So there are a lot of possibilities here. And yeah, I like that show. I don't, it did not do particularly well as far as ratings goes, which I think is a shame because it was so much fun uh,
Right.
out there. And, is it Andor season 2? No, but it's not supposed to be. It is definitely its own thing. And I'd like to see, and whether it's John Watson and Christopher Ford doing it or not, that character I think would be so moldable, so usable in other projects that he doesn't necessarily have to be pigeonholed to that same type of thing.
Right. No, I totally agree. And, when I say cameo, I mean, I guess something more along the lines of Pelimoto, where you
Sure.
you keep getting to go back and there's
A
there's sort
recurring
of an
role.
anchor, yes, like an anchor to his purpose for being there, but
Right.
not necessarily the main type character, like a Bo-Katan.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Well, some news that came out right before we were getting ready to record is that there is a new Audible original project coming out on October 9th called The Jaws of Jakku, which is being written by Kevin Scott, and narration is being provided by Helen Sadler. And this story tells of the adventure of Rey, Finn, and BB-8 returning to Jakku in the year between The Last Jedi and the rise of Skywalker to tackle a mystery beneath the sands. The official description is that following the events of The Last Jedi, Rey struggles to let go of her lonely childhood on the desert planet of Jakku. Hoping to have a breakthrough in her Jedi training, she returns to her homeworld with Finn and BB-8 in tow. When they meet a young girl on a dangerous mission to save her family, they travel through the pitch-black tunnels beneath the sands where they encounter scurrying gnaw jaws, a haunting terror from the past, and maybe, just maybe, hope for them all. It's supposed to clock in at 3 hours and 53 minutes. This all sounds fantastic to me. There's one thing that's giving me pause, and that the category listed for this is children's audiobooks.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Yeah, and 3 hours and 53 minutes seems like an awfully long story for children when it comes down to it. And this is not the same thing, but why this gives me pause is that in going through the High Republic, I've read all the middle grade books, and quite frankly, there's a lot of talented authors writing them, but their young adult and their adult work far outshines their middle grade work. And I am just very nervous that that is going to prove to be the case here, and we're not going to get something that. Again, I'm trying to be careful here because I don't want to discredit anything, but it's just not of a quality. It's not of that the young adult type stuff is here. But what's your thought on that?
Well, no, I agree with you. And as far as the upside to this, as soon as I saw Kevin Scott, of course, we're both huge fans of Kevin Scott.
Right.
I thought, oh wow, that's really cool that he's doing this, and the fact that, of course, it's coinciding with the 10-year anniversary of The Force Awakens is pretty cool that they're deciding to put this out. But yeah, I mean, as far as being such a young audience, not to say that it can't be beloved as far as a story goes and that it can't be a good story, but at the same time, it's a little bit an interesting choice, let's just put it that way, as a release audience to me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you said, Kevin Scott is a draw to this because we liked his High Republic comics that he's done with Marvel. We've enjoyed the books that he's written for the High Republic. He's done the audio dramas for the High Republic. With that feature Lauren D. He also did the Count Dooku audio drama all those years ago, which was fantastic. So I got a lot of faith in him, but to me, it's just the parameters. What kind of story is he telling for a children's audiobook here? So I don't know. I mean, at the moment, I'm inclined to check this out simply because it is Kevin Scott and I'm such a big fan. But I think it's really going to be. This is not something I'm going to pre-order. I'm going to wait a little bit closer to time and hear more about it before I make a definitive decision on this one way or the other.
No, I agree. And again, some of the younger audience types of things have been really, really enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just it's the other thing about it is that they've been so reluctant to touch the sequel trilogy era characters. They use them so sparingly because they want to leave that era open
Hmm.
for the likes of movies and things like that. But the other thing is they just didn't give themselves so much time to fill up with between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker here. I mean, I haven't read it yet because I'm kind of waiting for it to get a little bit more published and bundled. But the Legacy of Vader comic that talks about Kylo Ren between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker there.
Yeah.
I want to see what happens in that year and stuff like that. But they just were so hands off for so long. Give us that content. Why not? Here.
Right.
I mean, we have the Resistance Reborn book by Rebecca
Roan
Roanhouse, I believe.
horse. Hmm.
Roanhorse, yeah, that came out, but that's like almost an immediate prequel to the Rise of Skywalker. So it's just a very undeveloped era. Meanwhile, they chalked the time period of the original trilogy so full of comics that they didn't leave themselves much wiggle room for writing stories. And they're beginning to really fill up that era between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope and the Return of the Jedi and the Force Awakens with stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, the last story we got is a bit of a down note, but Terrance Stamp, who we all know as Chancellor Valorum from The Phantom Menace, has passed away at the age of 87. He died on August 17th, apparently surrounded by friends and family. It was not a huge role in The Phantom Menace, but it was an important one. I know Terrance Stamp better as General Zod from Superman
Yeah.
2.
Hmm.
But again, another Star Wars luminary that has passed away. I didn't realize he was quite so old at 87. That kind of surprised me. I thought he was a bit younger than that. But do you have any other final thoughts about Mr. Stamp?
I think you said it all, and you said it very well. He definitely played a very crucial role in Star Wars, in Chancellor Valorum, and the legacy thereof. And there are some other things, as you said, the Superman. I believe he was, if I remember right, he was also in Young Guns and a couple other things as well. But definitely will be missed.
Indeed, indeed. So our condolences to his family, friends, and admirers everywhere. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this week's Star Wars news here on Podcast Stardust. Thank you all for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed it. And if so, and you haven't done so already, we'd appreciate if you could subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review wherever you do such things. And then if you want to catch more episodes of the show beyond what you're likely to find on your podcatcher choice, head over to RetroZap, where you can find all previous 928 episodes of the show. You want to go ahead and remind everybody where else we can be found on the internet and social media.
Absolutely. So you can find us on all of your podcatchers and the usual streaming suspect places. In addition to all of those, you can also hit us up on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust. And if you're looking for some fun ideas for everything Star Wars, you can also check out all of our Pinterest boards. And if you want even more places to listen to Podcast Stardust, you can check out both our YouTube and our YouTube music outlets. And we sure would appreciate it if you would subscribe to both of those and share those out with your friends, because we'd really like to get that YouTube subscription trophy thing, because that's really cool. So
Years
other
away
than
from that one.
that's all right. We have to have goals, right? We
Right.
believe in ourselves. And we also have our TeePublic store, and it would be amazing if you would support us there by picking up one of 7 different show logo designs on everything from t-shirts and coffee mugs to sweatshirts and even tote bags and everything in between. So the link to that is in our show notes. And if you do happen to snag something, please make sure that you take a picture and tag us so we can see where those things end up out in the galaxy, because that means a lot to us.
Upcoming on the show, on Monday, we are returning to the Clone Wars with a look at episode 18 from season 2. And then on Wednesday, it'll be the latest entry in our Revenge of the Sith series, part 8. We're really getting into the thick things of Act 3, so make sure you join us for that. With all that having been said, thanks for listening to episode 929 of Podcast Stars, everyone. Have a great weekend, and until next time, may the Force be